Recapping Oregon's 62-14 victory over Portland State, the Ducks are now 2-0. Now they're preparing for San Jose State. We'll look back a little bit. I'm Joey Mac. He's Rob Moseley. And when you're playing an FCS team, I think everybody anticipates that the FBS team is going to run away with it. Well, that's pretty much what happened. And I thought that this game was kind of what we thought it was and really what it should have been afterwards.
Yeah, you want to win going away because, again, that's sort of the expectation. You want to play a lot of guys. Got to do that. Played 3 quarterbacks. Played a bunch of running backs again. Saw some new guys get in on the defensive side of the ball late in the game. Even Stephen Jones, another freshman offensive lineman, so that was good. Played pretty clean again. No turnovers. That's good. Keep the penalties limited. Come out of the game relatively healthy. Looked like that was the case. So, we talked a lot about the schedule, the strength of this non-conference schedule or lack thereof coming into the year. And once the season begins, you just play the hand you're dealt, and I think the Ducks have taken care of business through 2 games to the best extent they could.
Always a good news when the training table is only occupied by George Moore and what Coach Cristobal called a tweaked ankle.
Yeah, he came back. Yeah.
This is great. That is great news. You mentioned the running backs, and I think that was a position group that I was curious about heading into this game. What does that rotation look like? In game 1, all 6 scholarship running backs saw time. Coach Cristobal said that it was kind of a rotation. It seems like that rotation is getting more and more focused in, I guess, now through week 2.
Yeah, you're really starting to see defined roles. Tony Brooks-James obviously is the guy. A couple rushing touchdowns for him, led the team in rushing, got over 100 yards. That was good to see from him. C.J. Verdell and Travis Dye looking like the primary backups. Probably one of those guys will end up being the first guy off the bench. Well, literally one will have to be the first guy off the bench. But and then the other guy I'll probably see his carries reduced a little bit later in the season. But for now, kind of those 2 guys sharing that role. Situationally, still Taj Griffin, a guy who maybe on fly sweeps, some screen passes we've seen, starting to carve out a role for himself there. Cyrus Abibi-Likio, clearly the goal line guy. He's got one of 3 guys who scored a touchdown in both games already. Didn't see Darian Felix in this one. Coach Cristobal said next week that will not be the case, that he'll get more run there. So yeah, starting to see some definition in those running back roles.
Coach Cristobal also very happy with the way that the 2s and 3s finished the game. He thought that they finished strong, and I think one really strong example of that is C.J. Verdell. He ended up 1 yard shy of Tony Brooks-James in terms of rushing yards, and I think that speaks to the way that the 2s and 3s were able to finish this game.
Yeah, to see Braxton Burmeister come in and lead a long touchdown drive, an extended drive, make a couple throws to move the chains and keep things going was really, really good. And then Tyler Shuck comes in. All he does is hand off, but he gets his first Autzen Stadium experience and also leads a touchdown drive. It was a short field, and C.J. Verdell did all the heavy lifting. But Stephen Jones got in on that drive too, and on the touchdown play that C.J. scored, just pile drives his guy back into the end zone and across the formation. So, showing what they like about him there, so it's showing some promise. But yeah, much better start than in game 1 and much better finish, and those were 2 points of emphasis coming out of the Bowling Green game that looked like they got addressed.
Hey, Justin Herbert, another strong performance from him. How about 11 different receivers catching balls? I mean, and I thought that it really did start quickly, and it started early for the Ducks.
Yeah, the breadth of talent at the skill positions really shows. We talked about that running back rotation, and at the receiver position, we're seeing some of that too. Brendan Schooler doesn't have a touchdown reception yet. Jake Breland doesn't have a touchdown reception yet, but a bunch of other guys do. We saw Kano Dillon get into the mix, score his first touchdown. Tabari Hines, another graduate transfer, score his first touchdown. Really good to see, particularly with Kano Dillon in the wake of Cam McCormick's injury. You need your tight end rotation to step up, so he makes a play there. Hunter Campmoyer was in for C.J. Verdell's last touchdown, helping block on that play. He's a physical guy, former defensive player. Ryan Bay continues to be kind of under the radar, but Mario Cristobal said after the game he played a lot of snaps and played well. That's a guy with a big role now in McCormick's absence as well. So some situations where you needed guys to step up, and they did. So that was encouraging.
Tight end was really my position to watch, and I asked Justin Herbert about that tight end spot, and I also kind of joked with Justin after the game. Hey, did you think that in back-to-back weeks you were going to have a wide receiver drag an entire defense into the end zone and then have a tight end drag an entire defense into the end zone? And so those are quarterbacks' best friends, aren't they? What a play from Kano Dillon.
Props to Coach Feld. These guys are strong. And he had about 4 or 5 guys on his back and still managed to cross the goal line.
Justin Herbert, 20 for 26 with 4 touchdowns. The Ducks did give up 1 sack, and I know that's going to hurt Coach Cristobal, but I thought offensive line depth again on display.
Yeah, he made a lot of good decisions. In the run game, I thought there was the 1 sack, but he kept himself healthy in the running game, so that was good. The offensive line continuing to gel. Panay Sewell you don't notice the guy again because he just handles his business as a true freshman left tackle, and it's just remarkable. Herbert starts the game with 3 straight incompletions, a couple of them dropped, so he finishes the game 20 of 23. He had 9 straight at one point. I think he finished the game completing like 13 of his last 14, something like that. Just, we're seeing a great player here performing at an elite level, and it's just special to watch week in, week out.
Discipline has been a big focus for Coach Cristobal, and penalties down again this week.
Again, all you can do is what you can do, and so people will look at the and say, hey, the opponents are what they are, and that's true. That's legitimate. It's going to be a couple weeks probably before the Ducks have a chance to quiet that, but only averaging 4 penalties a game so far. That leads the conference. The only Pac-12 team that's top 25 in the country in both third down conversions offensively and third down defense. There's just a lot to really like about this team. They're scoring 20 more points a game than any other team in the Pac-12. That tells you the level they're executing. Again, you can only play the cards you're dealt once you sit down at the table. They knew who the opponents were going to be. They seem to be handling business.
With that in mind, I think there's still a lot of questions of
Sure.
who the Ducks are. I mean, who are the Ducks right now, Rob?
Yeah, right now they're 2-0, looking to go 3-0. Probably exactly where everybody figured they would be in terms of record-wise, results-wise. Have they answered many questions about what might play out? Because I think everybody externally is saying what's going to happen when Oregon plays Stanford on September 22nd. Have many questions been answered in that regard? I don't think so. I doubt it. I think you're still some of the things coming into the season that you wondered about. Receiver depth, with some of those drops, those questions haven't necessarily been answered. Defensive line depth, Drayton Carlberg, Popo Amavae, Gary Baker, those guys are stepping up against these non-conference opponents. When you go against a bigger, tougher, more physical Stanford offensive line, will they still look like guys who can come in and you don't miss a beat up front? The corners, we talked preseason about the young corners, and other than a couple big busting plays involving the tight end the other day, those guys have held up pretty well. But when you go against, we've seen what J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's doing for Stanford the last couple weeks. He's such a tough matchup based on his size and okay, so how are Thomas Graham, Diamador Lenore, how are they going to fare in that matchup? Still things we're all kind of wondering. We don't know any better or worse than we did a couple weeks ago. So we continue, those of us externally can have that one circled. Ducks will put their focus on San Jose State this week.
One of the things that I have sort of continued to know with this team is that they are young but extremely talented. Case in point, Adrian Jackson, I thought, stepped in for the injured Lamar Winston pretty well. I mean, we're seeing that depth develop, and I feel like the biggest improvement, coaches always say, is from week 1 to week 2. I felt like there was improvement in those categories in terms of depth was developed. The penalties were maintained. They started faster. I think that everything that you wanted to have happen in this game did in fact happen. And so now it's San Jose State.
Yeah, there were still a couple drops early, some breakdowns early. Jackson did have, at least one time when he lost contain on the edge, and it's sort of, one of the basics for the outside linebacker. But that's the sort of thing you watch on film and you learn from, and he'll get better because of that experience. And you want to get that out of the way in a game like this. So. We'll just bring on San Jose State, and one more week we'll kind of take a wait and see approach, and then we'll really find out once conference play starts where these guys are at.
The Ducks are 2-0, a 62-14 win over Portland State. Up next, San Jose State, a team that has struggled themselves, 0-2 so far this season, with losses to Washington State and to UC Davis. San Jose State, a 2 o'clock start time at Autzen Stadium on Saturday.